Welcome to your weekly program, Bel Ahdan, the show that brings other side of the Arab to your living room. Today we have a very special day. It's not because we have Eid al-Adha, the sacrifice of the feast. We are been invited by a prominent Turkish thinker and intellectual to talk with him about some of his books and views. He is the most prominent Islamic thinker in modern history. He's been handling current events and handling tough questions that facing Muslims and Islam. Wrote numerous books, hundreds of movies, and hundreds of articles. He's been invited by so many worldwide media. He's been on all kind, BBC, Al Jazeera, and his books and his article been translated to different languages. And we are welcome here. We are at his as his guest here in Istanbul, and this is a very special for us. So welcome to Bel Ahdan. And Bel Ahdan means with open arms, so we are open our arms to you.
Hoş bulduk. Şeref duydum.
Okay, I really, from my research and trying to, know a little bit about you, the first things I know that this person is very cool, and he, you talk about intelligent design, and the first thing I heard intelligent design, I thought you're talking about your fashion and the design of your fashion, and I, one of the few times that I found a Muslims intellectual that is also very modern and very insightful talking to non-Muslims.
Thank you for this comment.
You wrote so many books, so many articles, but most of your passion is to bring the Islamic view of most difficult and complicated questions facing Muslims, especially in science, and especially Darwinism and the theory of evolution. Are you declaring jihad against Darwinism or against Darwin?
I'm only looking for the truth. I'm only running after facts. That is my only and unique concern, and I cannot accept the fact that human beings are lied to. So what I'm striving for is to get the truth.
Is your biggest issue with Darwinism? And what are those issues? That's the main issue that you think Darwinism, or was Darwin himself? You call Darwin Antichrist, Al-Dajjal. So it is, after all, a biology theory. It's theory, people can use it, abuse it, wherever. But what are the main issues that you have with the theory of evolution?
Of course, I'm not particularly concerned with the person of Charles Darwin, because what I'm basically concerned is his ideas. I think that Darwinism is based on a Masonic way of thinking. And what I cannot accept about Darwinism is that people cannot and should not be lied to. People have the right to hear the correct things about nature and creation. Let me quote from Darwin. Darwin says that if species have evolved from one species into another throughout history, then why cannot we find any single transitional form? This is a very basic question asked by Darwin himself, because we have 100 million fossils in our hands, and among those 100 million fossils, we have no single transitional form which could prove the theory of evolution. So that is, in the very first step, a defeat of Charles Darwin's theory. And in another place, Charles Darwin asks this very basic question: why is there no chaos in nature? Why is everything defined and orderly in nature? Well, the very simple and very basic answer to that question is that because nature has been created by Allah. So another important question put forward by Darwin is that he asks, why can't we find any transitional forms in the underground levels of the earth? So when you look at these three quotations, it is very clear from the very outset that Darwinism has already been defeated.
A lot of people from the scientific community also are critical of Darwinism, and they have some holes, but that doesn't mean creation is the answer.
So that's a very clear and undeniable fact, because there is no other possibility other than creationism. When we look at this cup, for example, it is very evident that it has been produced by someone, because we see it in our brains. And if you ask that question to someone and asks who has produced this cup, he would tell you that it was produced in a factory. And because of that reason, we can see that in our brains, because Allah has produced it. So there is no second possibility for that.
You have some issue with the role that Darwinism and the theory of evolution played in our social life, and you contribute all kind of vices and violence to Darwinism, racism, Holocaust, and the violence and dividing the world is really based on theories. You're talking about social Darwinism, and not a lot of people will agree with the social Darwinism. We're talking about the separation between social Darwinism and biological Darwinism. Can we imagine the world without biology, or can biology survive without Darwinism? And is there a such thing as Islamic biology that can replace and answer some of the questions that are raised by the scientific community?
Well, physics, chemistry, paleontology, these are different branches of sciences, and they have scientific approaches in themselves. Darwinism, on the other hand, is a pagan religion. It's a very primitive belief. And when you look at Darwinism, you will see that it deifies the matter. It puts the matter on the basis of a god. It deifies the atoms. On the other hand, paleontology, for example, examines the different levels and layers of the earth. In paleontology, you inspect 100 million fossils, and you compare each one of them with the living species and living animals. And out of that comparison, you see that no changes have occurred in species throughout the history. Now, this is what we call science. On the other hand, when we look at Darwinism, Darwinism is an imaginary system, an imaginary way of thinking. When you ask the basic question, how is a protein created, Darwinists would explain that to you within the framework of a coincidence. And when you ask Darwinists, how has a cell been created, they will again explain things in terms of a coincidence. They will base the emergence of bodily organs, arms and legs, again on the coincidence. Now, how can we put science and coincidence together? So Darwinism is an imaginary system. This is very clear and undeniable.
Isn't it, when you bring Islam and the Quran to the science area, isn't it a little bit dangerous to really put the Islam on a test for all those details? Because the science is a matter of research, and theory can be wrong, and then they correct that, and they change, and Darwin didn't have all the knowledge 150 years ago. But when it comes to religion, to explain science, and when religion is wrong, what would you say?
So, religion encourages scientific pursuits. They are not in contradiction. So, religion cannot harm scientific pursuits. And when we look at religion, when we look at Islam, we will see that many scientific advancements and discoveries have been foretold to people